Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today. My name is Jennifer Mayer. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of 1776. This is an incubator space, our first and thus far only location in New Jersey. This is one of 10 campuses that we have throughout the Northeast Corridor where we support entrepreneurs and small business owners. It was a special homecoming for me to launch a New Jersey location as I was born and raised in southern New Jersey. So working with Governor Murphy's administration has been really important for us to help support the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we have growing not only in South Jersey but the entire state of New Jersey, which is why we're very excited to host Governor Murphy here today, where he will shortly announce a lot of the tax incentive programs. So thank you again, and without further ado, Governor Murphy.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Thank you. I just said this to Jen. I lived in Philadelphia for a couple of years. My late brother and his family lived in Cherry Hill. I've done a lot of time at this mall. But when I was pulling up, I felt like I should be going to Nordstrom's to buy a pair of socks and coming to an incubator. So this is pretty cool, and I'm incredibly honored to be here. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here at 1776 at Cherry Hill Mall. We're right here, by the way, and right now the future of New Jersey's economy is taking shape. Thank you, Jen, a South Jersey product, Cape May, founder of 1776, a very incredibly cool and attractive concept, and one that you may be propagating in further places in New Jersey, which would be huge. So I thank you for your introduction, for welcoming us and hosting us so graciously here at 1776. And from your work in real estate, you know that the three most important words are location, location, and location. And this space has all three and then some. I could shout out a lot of people here, so I want to just as a general matter shout out brothers and sisters in labor. Great to have you with us. Those in t-shirts and those not, depending on your color schemes. Reva Foster, bless you. Great to have you in from Burlington County. God bless you. Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development, an incredibly important guy in our cabinet, Rob Acera Angelo, is in the house. Rob, thank you. A guy who is incredibly important for what we're talking about today, the Chief Executive Officer of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Tim Sullivan's in the house. Sue Altman, who's within, 2 weeks, Sue? 4 weeks, pardon me, time flies when you're having fun, who runs New Jersey Working Families. Great to see you and have you here. And I could give out many other shout outs, so forgive me just for stopping here. Joe Kelly, who's our Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of Economic Affairs. And also Reverend Derek Green, who's a friend to many here and a senior advisor to me, is with us. So I know Mike Delamater was here, Darrell Isherwood, Matt Seidel, some of them are coming out, Dante Colucci, and a few others. The name 1776 recalls the time of our nation's founding and when we took our first furtive steps and looked to a bright future. It celebrates a spirit of revolution and a willingness to take risks in the name of something larger than ourselves. Likewise, the small and innovative startup businesses being founded and taking their first steps right here are looking to a bright future, and they are unafraid to take risks when the reward is great. The fact that they're doing so in New Jersey cannot be overlooked. We were at the center of that revolution nearly 250 years ago, and we can be at the center of the revolution of innovation and inclusion that is the heart of the new economy. These are the businesses that define our administration's work over the past year to refocus our state's economy to one based on innovation, and our economic vision to one of grabbing hold of a broad array of tools to spur long-term growth. Most of all, businesses like this are New Jersey at our best, where big dreams can come true, where hard work is rewarded, and where we grow our economy from the middle out and from the bottom up. That's why my number one job as governor is to build a stronger and fairer New Jersey. And that starts with a stronger and fairer economy that works for families across our state. Part of that challenge is, how do we grow businesses? How do we attract businesses? And how do we encourage people to stake their future here? I come to this place, a place brimming with hope and opportunity, to lay out a series of business incentive programs that are innovative and focus on innovation, programs that value communities and corporations, programs that encourage new entrepreneurs, people of color, women, and veterans, and programs that watch out for our taxpayers. I have to say before I go forward, I'm walking on air. By the way, I've got my incubator kicks on today for you. I want to make sure these shoes and laces are the New Jersey state flag colors. And secondly, I just came from across the Delaware, where I was named the Bio Governor of the Year. So listen, I'll be lining up for autographs after our gathering today for that accolade. But I have to say, and I meant to say this to Jen, to you privately, while that was a biotech focus, and there were 20,000 people at this conference, it's an annual conference that moves around the country, it was the same feeling as you feel here. It was the same feeling of at the edge of your seat, cutting edge. In that case, it was not even just regional or American, it was global. But this is a microcosm. It may be different industry sets, but it's a microcosm of that same feel. And New Jersey is committed to being right at the center of that economy as it explodes in the next number of years. So for all of those objectives that I just laid out, yet for many years, New Jersey's economic incentive program did not live up to those ideas. It wasn't strategic. It too often left communities and people behind. To be clear, many good companies and many good people played by the rules and used the incentives program the right way. And we value each of them. And they should know that New Jersey is better because of their presence in our state. So I am not here today to debate whether we have a business incentive program. We should and we will. Rather, I am here to talk about what kind of business incentive program we must have. This is a discussion I've been focused on long before I took office. Nearly 3 years ago, when I first announced my economic vision, I noted that the economic program under my predecessor consisted of nothing more than tax incentives. Instead of a toolbox of various and complementary programs, we had consistently pulled out only one blunt object. When I proposed my first budget last year, so that was on March 13th, 2018, to be exact, I included a call for the legislature to work together with our administration on crafting the next generation of corporate tax incentives, at that point 16 months before the expiration of our current program. I unveiled my master economic plan 6.5 months later, on October 1st, 2018, including, by the way, a sweeping new suite of strategic tax incentives created, I might add, in consultation with economic experts, business leaders, and community leaders. More on that in a few minutes. When our plan was announced, a full 3 months, I might add, before this is important, we announced our plan on October 1st, a full 3 months before the state comptroller even released the results of his audit. One longtime business leader in our state called that address that we gave, quote, a turning point, and, quote, the best economic speech he had heard over his half-century of work. Then again, just 3 months ago, when I proposed my budget for the upcoming fiscal year, I returned to my call to the legislature to work with us to move forward on enacting these new programs that would provide $400 million in annual incentives to create jobs, renew communities, and welcome new businesses to our state. So let's again clear the air about what this discussion is and is not about. I will not unilaterally disarm our economic development while our competitor states are luring businesses in part through incentives. However, I will not simply renew a set of incentive programs when serious questions exist whether they've been successful in spurring broad-based economic activity in our communities, or even if their most basic promises have been met. Yes, business tax incentives must be part of a smartly designed and strategically deployed economic program. But the operative words in that sentence are part of. Part of. Incentives cannot be our only tool. They must be one of a myriad of tools in our toolbox, maximizing our other assets, our location, our great people and talent, our schools, our infrastructure. They're all also key components to economic growth, and we cannot invest in them if we give away all the resources we will need to make those investments in the first place. The simple fact remains that while we were handing out incentives to the tune of roughly $11 billion in total obligations and at per job award amounts multiple times that of our competitive states, those incentives were returning minimal overall economic benefits. That fact is not up for debate. From 2010 to 2018, New Jersey paid 5 times more than our peer states for every job created or retained, yet attracted 5 times less capital investment per incentive dollar we gave out. And by the way, neither are these facts up for debate. Under the current programs, New Jersey continued to lag when we took over at number 42 in job growth, number 49 in wage growth, number 47 in progress in eradicating poverty in the nation. And that's, by the way, all out of 50. That's the place at which our administration entered. It's a place where I am determined we will not stay. This is not about one city, one company, or one person. As I've said, the overwhelming number of incentive recipients are good businesses and good corporate citizens. They have followed the rules and followed through on their promises. They have shown their commitment to our state and our people. This is not about them. What this is about is making sure we have policies in place that don't just allow some to do well, but which allow entire communities to do well. We must once again look at economic growth and success through the lens of the average New Jerseyan, those in the middle class, and even more so, those working hard someday to get there. And from the many conversations I have had with business leaders up and down our state, they agree. Whether you're a major corporation or a fledgling startup, businesses want a reliable, clear, and fair playing field. These conversations led the Economic Development Authority under Tim's leadership just 4 weeks ago to hold its first ever South Jersey Founders and Funders event, bringing together entrepreneurs with venture capital funders and angel investors right here at 1776. These conversations led to the EDA's new NJ Ignite Rent Assistance Program for the promising startups taking shape here at 1776 and in incubator and co-working spaces elsewhere across the state. They are also the conversations that led directly to the design of the new and strategic incentive programs we have put forward to build an innovation-fueled economy, an economy that increasingly relies on homegrown success stories as opposed to only recruiting from other states. Building this stronger, fairer economy starts with the NJ Forward incentive program to create jobs in targeted, high-growth and high-wage industries, in creating and retaining jobs in our 169 statewide opportunity zones, which are targeted high-poverty zones with very special federal tax benefits for investment in them, and incenting smart steps like hiring locally, partnering with one of our research universities, or undertaking transit-oriented development. Restoring our communities and restarting our urban engines of growth will be supported by NJ Aspire, which we see as a catalyst for neighborhood-based investments. Vacant and underutilized properties can be turned into job-creating development opportunities, whether it be a business headquarters or an incubator in our downtowns, new housing perhaps, or a cultural hub where people can come together. Just as importantly, NJ Aspire will have clear criteria for evaluating projects, including a focus on workforce development and apprenticeship opportunities. So work sites can also be places, for instance, where our future building trades workforce will gain invaluable skills. What's more, these programs can work in tandem with our planned new competitive brownfields redevelopment and historic preservation tax credits, which will breathe fresh life into contaminated sites on the one hand and old buildings with great bones on the other. And they will work with our proposed Innovation Evergreen Fund, which would pair the proceeds from the sale of future tax credits with private venture capital funds so we can make strategic joint investments directly in the promising startups that we will need. Startups that can find their home in the new spaces or other incentives that our other incentives perhaps will make possible. After all, economic growth can't just be about helping a select few and the politically connected, but about offering a helping hand to the new ideas being brought to market right here at 1776 and in reigniting more broadly New Jersey's startup culture. And to those who question whether we can afford $50 million a year in carefully vetted venture startup investments, I ask in return how that fares against literally billions of dollars in tax breaks, including big chunks in particular individual companies whose impact is up for debate. This suite By the way, love the 1776 t-shirts, by the way. I should have acknowledged this earlier. This suite of 5 programs is how we can provide the economic incentives we will need to direct real and sustainable growth to where it will do the most good. In places like Camden, Bridgeton, Vineland, and Atlantic City, along with Newark, Patterson, Trenton, and frankly, every community where we can be helpful. All the while protecting our ability to make critical investments through the state budget in things like education and infrastructure, to name just 2 in these very same communities. So we can't be all or the other. We've got to be balanced, right? We need incentives, but they've got to be measured, they've got to be capped, they've got to be transparent, and they've got to be forward-looking. And at the same time, allow us to invest in the things that draw people here and keep people here: education, transportation, healthcare, job creation, etc. They will give businesses tremendous options to stack incentives in a smart way. So this isn't about qualifying for one incentive or another. NJ Aspire, for example, will work best when it can be paired with either a brownfields credit or a historic preservation credit, or perhaps both. And NJ Forward will attract the fully scaled corporations that will mentor our startup community through the Innovation Evergreen Fund. There are a myriad of potential combinations of these incentives, including, by the way, with the federal incentives. This is how we will create good jobs, not just at the businesses who receive an award, but for the men and women of the building trades who will construct them, the doormen and the janitors who will operate them, and the warehouse workers and so many others who are in the trenches every single day helping us rebuild our economy. We will ensure recipients honor prevailing wage laws, and we will provide a bonus for those who sign project labor agreements and hire union labor. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the proposed incentives are unmatched by any incentives in any state as it relates to organized labor in all of its realities by any state in the United States of America. We will also work so that the people in the communities in which these projects are built are given every opportunity to participate in the jobs and the incentive programs that the incentive programs nurture. People who all too often have been left out and left behind by the way the current incentive programs have been managed. And we will have enforcement tools to make sure those and all promises are fulfilled. This suite of programs is how we replace a broken system with a new one, firmly rooted in the same entrepreneurial spirit that we see and feel here. As I've said many times, I want the world's biggest and best technology, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, logistics, and life science companies to come here and expand here. I want New Jersey to be the home of as many great companies as possible. But even more importantly, and I take that applause, by the way, but even more importantly, I want New Jersey to be the place where those companies are born. I'm an unapologetic capitalist, but the price we pay for the unlimited upside of the American dream cannot be an unlimited downside for those who are struggling to realize their dreams. Put another way, amen. To our faith-based leaders, God bless you. Whether you are literally or figuratively, bless you. Put another way, we must ensure fairness and equity for the communities which will host the businesses we will reward for making a commitment to New Jersey. We cannot ignore that our current system of open-ended and outsized corporate tax breaks has hurt our ability to invest more deeply in our communities and in the things that businesses look for when choosing a location. Strong connections between education and the real economy, a well-educated and trained workforce, property tax relief, please God, strong infrastructure underpinned by modern and safe mass transit, and vibrant, diverse, and walkable communities. Being pro-growth and progressive are not either-or scenarios. We can be both. We must be both. When we look to incent businesses, we must look at more than just their ability to bring jobs into a community. We must also incent their ability to become part of that community. We need to make sure that the communities are true partners in these projects, and then make sure these communities benefit along with the companies that benefit. We need buildings with strong connections to the greater community, where there is, for instance, ground level retail, where opportunities for a small sandwich shop or a food truck or a diner or a new restaurant to take seed on the streets outside, that all of that opportunity exists. This is how we rebuild communities. Surely the wants of the 9-to-5 businesses matter, but creating thriving 24/7, 365 communities is essential, if not existential. Building these communities requires some sort of incentive program, but it must be one that is predictable and sustainable, transparent and accountable, and smartly devised and strategically deployed. Our proposed incentives meet these tests. Our current program failed these tests. Instead of simply trumpeting the groundbreaking for a new office building, let's trumpet the groundbreaking of a building that contributes fully to community redevelopment and rebirth. Instead of, amen. Instead of bemoaning the loss of venture capital investment in our state, let's take real and substantive steps to get it back and using it to dominate the innovation economy and make New Jersey the startup state of the entire nation. Instead of a system that benefits only a few actors and at unsustainable rates that hurt our ability to invest in our core values, let's enact a new system that works for the broad array of businesses, but even more for the broad array of our communities. This is the discussion that I have been leading for the past 16 months, or longer, frankly. It's a discussion that we need to have now more than ever. So when I sign a new state budget, we can also enact the new incentive programs that will buttress the investments being made in that budget. We must prove to the people of New Jersey that we can focus on more than one challenge at one time. We must prove to our business community that we won't hold them hostage to Trenton's political battles. The re-envisioning of Cherry Hill Mall shows what can be done when we think creatively to restructure New Jersey's landscape. We need incentives that will allow this thinking to take hold across our state. The businesses here at 1776 show us the future of our state's economy. They need a set of incentives as forward-looking and as nimble as they themselves are. And that's what we've put forward. This is where our state's conversation must be. It's not about do we or don't we, but about how do we do it better. And when we sit down together and speak not in breathless and accusatory tones, but on respectful terms, I know we can get this done. Thank you, Jen, for hosting us. Thank you all so much for being here today. God bless you all.